welcome to the TEXO podcast. If you would love to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, I'm Phil Lishman, Head of Engineering and Capital Delivery at Teesside International Airport.
How long have you been here?
So I've worked at the airport, I'd say about 23 years now.
Right,
so
okay.
Man and boy.
Yes.
So I started as an electrician and worked my way up through the business and got quite a wide range knowledge of the site and the whole business as a whole. Yeah.
So you can see where the airport can develop.
Yeah.
What's the challenges been since sort of 2019 in establishing the airport as a major sort of local hub, transport hub?
It's been difficult. We were owned by Peel, which was more of a property development company. Had its challenges. They obviously were on a different focus than creating more airlines and movements for passengers and people of the Teesside area. The local mayor's taken over and we've had to sort of bring the business up from a very low baseline to try and encourage airlines to come in and put on new routes, which is probably a reason why we went to look at air cargo and bring cargo into the business, because we found that to subsidise the running of an airport we needed revenue streams and cargo would be one of those.
How unique is it, the ownership and the management by a sort of a local authority, local council?
There are a few in the UK, but it is quite unique now. A lot of them all went private years ago, as we did. We originally were an airport run by the local councils. We went private, and the challenges are different in the fact that we can now look at the airport as a service and something for the people of Teesside, as opposed to being a business trying to make money.
Right.
So it's a different driver now, and I can see that through the years I've been here, how those different ownerships have shown that.
So how important is it that you're part of the sort of the Freeport?
It's very good. I mean, it helps us. We've got a lot of development land because we haven't developed over the years, so we've got acres and acres, probably 300 or 400 acres of land for development. And if you look across the UK, most of the airports have already developed.
They don't have the capacity.
They don't have the capacity to do anything else. So being teamed up with Tees Works and having the Freeport down there, it's enabled us to have it in this area here, and that lets us attract different businesses that you would normally attract.
So you've got huge scope for expansion.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how important is passenger and cargo to those development plans?
So the way it works is, obviously we wanted the airport for the people of Teesside, put routes on for people to travel to sunny destinations.
Aberdeen, I saw Aberdeen.
Aberdeen's probably not the sunniest of places to go to, but it does have its moments. But I think what we need is the development of the land and different revenue streams supports the running of the commercial part of the airline of the airport.
Right.
So without one, we couldn't really afford to do the other.
Right.
So it is important that we use that land and these different businesses to build.
So what's been the hardest aspect of developing the cargo facilities here?
It's quite a capsulated industry in the fact that East Midlands have got most of it, and to try and get that business to move and come elsewhere, they're very reluctant to make a change.
Right.
So it's almost like you've got to have the facility before you get the business, if you like. So to try and say, we'll just do it because it takes time. So that's
how long did it take from sort of
concept?
What was the process? How did you go through think, right, we need to do cargo?
So it was one of these, how we're going to make money, how we're going to support the actual...
So it was business development?
Business development, yeah. And it was one of those, right, let's do cargo. It was a decision made. We looked at it, what's out there, is there an opportunity? There's nothing north of at the time it was Doncaster.
Right.
Nothing north of that. And it was like, well, there's an opportunity. And then it's that trial and tribulation of trying to build something from the ground up. You've got to have something before they'll come. Part of being who we are with the mayor and everything, the funding is there, and it's very much a let's do it first and then get them in, rather than previous owners have been, we'll wait till we get a contract before we do it.
Right.
And that's hard in itself. So we've taken a plunge with our development, and we are starting to see some cargo coming in now, and it's a slow burn, but it'll snowball. It's that type of business.
So take us through those initial stages of acquiring or repurposing, because I think that was the key thing, wasn't it? It was about trying not to build a new building and go too much into the cost.
So what we did, we thought we could repurpose an existing hangar that we had, and it was a case of, how can we do this now? But is this the final goal? And it never was in the position it is now. It was always a first step. We've got lots of land, and the potential is we'll build something. If this works, we'll build a bigger facility, we'll expand and do it that way. So we took an old building and says, right, can we do something temporary? And that's where ACS came in to help us out in that journey.
So what was it, if we looked at the relationship with ACS, what did they bring to the table?
They had a lot of specialism in the aerodrome business, and they had a reputation for delivering this type of project, and they took it from concept right through architectural design and helped us throughout the way. They ran the project really well, to be honest.
When you say sort of aerodrome, as in there was a hangar.
It was a hangar, and that was it, to be honest. But it was in an airside environment,
right.
So you've got to have the people who know what they're looking at, and the risks and the things that sort of involved in it.
So as the progress or the project progressed, what stood out for you in the relationship that you developed with ACS?
I mean, I was involved pretty much from the start. We went through the design process, architectural process. The solutions that they came up with were thought outside the box, and they came up with some really good ideas. And it was all to a very high standard, to be honest. Yeah, it was.
What's it now allowing you to achieve? And there was two questions. I'll ask you that one. What's it allowing you to achieve, the solution or the actual package?
So the original idea of the package that they came up with was that we could actually temporarily set it up, but have an opportunity, if we did build something else, we could move the actual facility across quite easily without having to virtually start again.
So it was taking the guts out of it and just putting it into a bigger building?
Yeah, so we put it into boxes, so it could be you could actually move it lock, stock and barrel in packages, rather than having to say, right, let's take it and start again. So the X-ray machines were housed in self-contained containers, and they could be picked up and put on a wagon and moved to a new location if required.
Right, okay.
So that was quite good for us, because we didn't want to invest a lot of money and then we'd be stuck with it and it have to start again, if you like.
So really the solutions that were proposed allowed you for expansion. It wasn't sort of like, here it is, and you're going to have to start again.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't just about, there you go. It's like, we can help you in the future journey, if you like. Yeah.
What would you, if you were sort of, we talked about how ACS came up and delivered the solution. What have been the benefits now to the airport operations?
We've got a facility now that is top class, and it is to a really high standard, rather than we've just gone about it and done something half-hearted. It's enabled us to have a high level end product that we can move later on, rather than just doing something half-baked.
You mentioned that it was quite an interesting comment that you said you had to have the facilities in place to then be able to offer the solution. Yeah. So basically you had to have the facilities for the solution. How, when people come in now, how easy is it to now sell that solution?
It's good.
Nothing's easy.
Nothing's easy, but
because of the competition.
They come in, they can see the facilities up and running, and see the quality of the equipment and things we've invested in, and then they know it's not just they're just trialing something out. They have actually put the money into the business to actually get this new industry up and running, if you like. The thing is, we couldn't wait until we had an order for cargo, because then it takes 18 months, 12 months to actually build this facility. So we've actually built it now. And the hardest part as well is getting the likes of Border Force on and all the other regulatory bodies coming and inspecting it, and they've allowed this facility's allowed us to do that, and it's up to a good enough standard that they've accepted it.
So essentially the border force, so customs in a way.
Customs,
so they have to come in and they have to say, right, well, how are you scanning?
Yeah, how's it maintained? How's
the security?
What's the process? Make sure that you've got landside to airside access. We've even looking at perishables, so it's how you work with that.
Right.
Because if you've then got contamination, you've got to store it. So there's a lot of elements and a lot of people involved who sort of have to sign off.
And all of that sort of legality side of it, that's all. Was it made easier with the solutions that were provided?
I think the solution we came up with, they'd looked at everything ACS. They'd sort of says, right, you need to do this. We've got to have this in place. You've got to have that in place. The facilities that they provided and solutions that came up with allowed us to do that.
Right. In a nutshell, how did they perform, ACS TEXO?
Really well.
Right.
Absolutely really well, spot on. Couldn't fault them, to be honest. I mean, the meetings, they ran the meetings well, the communication was great. Obviously, the contractors doing some of the works were local, but the interfaces between them and the whole project was really good.
You touched on it a little bit. What does the future hold for cargo at Teesside?
I think there's a mixture, to be honest. We've got a lot of land to develop. And I think there's a mixture of us doing it ourselves, which we're doing at the moment, and there's definitely a big place for third-party companies to come in, develop the land, and provide facilities for them to come and do cargo as well. So it has opened that door to people say, oh, Teesside is cargo. It's not just airlines.
And because you've got the recent developments in terms of the free port.
Yeah.
How do you think that cargo, air freight and sea freight will mix?
There's a couple of opportunities. You can actually come in here, bond and then go to the port, or vice versa. Ports can come through here because we can bond that on train.
And for people who don't know what bonding is, it
means it's being taxed. So it comes in, it's sealed, and then it can travel by road to
it doesn't get taxed
again. And so it to people who are sort of transporting in and then back out again, or they're actually got some facility
it's
here.
It's important though, isn't it? That
it
aspect?
Is, yeah.
Massive.
Massive. And I mean, for instance, a data centre, if you had a data centre here, you might think, well, what they're transporting in, but they're buying a lot of aircon units, they're buying a lot of computer systems. Now, if they're buying them because they're in tax-free, because it's in less tax.
Yes, yeah.
They're in a customs zone. They
Anyone
can
listening from HMRC?
Yes, it's not tax-free.
Nothing's free.
No. But it does have benefits to them because they can buy that, and because
you're
coming out of it, they're actually working in
the area is competitive.
Absolutely.
And that really, at the end of the day, that's what
it's about.
Your suppliers want. They want to be able to have a competitive environment.
Yeah.
What advice would you give other airports wanting to expand into cargo, or to expand? And I think that's a differentiation we should have made at the beginning, is that, when you expand, you just looked at one of those aspects was cargo, and there's probably many others that you look into.
There is many others, and I think it's getting good. It's having, if you there's different airports. You've got the smaller locals like we are, and then you've got the big players at Heathrow's and that, and they'll expand how they're going to expand anyway. They've got
but their
plans.
Expansion is
it's limited, and it's repurposing, and they tend to focus mainly on passengers because that's where they're making good money. We've got low passenger numbers. It's hard for us to do that at the moment. Until you get sort of certain figures and certain numbers of passengers, you don't tend to make money out of passenger freight. So we've got to think outside the box, and the smaller players in the industry will do that. So I think for them, it's about having good quality sort of investment. So if you're going to invest money into the businesses, invest it wisely and actually have quality products.
Right, yeah.
Don't try and scrimp on it, because when you're trying to encourage people to come in, they look at what you've got and think, oh, that's impressive. It just gives them that thought of, they're interested, they're a proper player.
Question is, and that's a difficult one to answer, how important as a global player is the UK and its hubs in terms of cargo?
It's a difficult one to answer. It's not really my speciality, I will say that. I think at the moment it probably hasn't been as much as it possibly could do. I mean, we've come out of Brexit, so we've come out of Europe now. We have that opportunity, and we can bridge areas that probably we haven't got trade deals with in the past that we have now. So I think going forward, I think it could actually be that, and I think it's another one of those things that government could focus on to actually do something about it.
Touching on that lightly, because I know that it's owned by the local authority, so politically we've got to be very sensitive about what we say and don't say. Do you think that there's enough, when it comes to initiatives, your own sort of initiatives, where you think, right, this is how we're going to expand, do you think there's enough central government support in a lot of these? I know that you get, you said at the beginning, you get lots of local support, and if you need the money, it's found.
To be fair, for us, because of, again, politically, we've got the local mayor. He happens to be a Conservative mayor in a Labour area, and the money is free-flowing at the moment. That can change at any time, depending on changes in political
free-flowing
landscape.
because you've proven the development plans and
but
structures.
That's what's happening now, because we've got confidence in us as a business and the area. The money's coming more. We're getting more outside investment looking at coming in. So we're looking at private investment as opposed to just national government money coming in. So, yeah, I think at first it was difficult. You've got to prove yourself, and I think Teesside's starting to do that.
How attractive, or are you finding, because obviously the initiative here to repurpose, and what ACS TEXO worked with you on was to repurpose that building. Are you finding now, without naming names, some of the bigger cargo carriers are wanting to have their own purpose-built facilities? How does that expansion work?
Yeah,
because you're providing the
yeah. Well, so we've got the solution for us independently. So we're doing our own sort of cargo facility and managing it and dealing with it to a level. We're obviously talking to other cargo carriers to come in and do their thing via air freight, and we are talking to other people and opportunities for development of the land to actually get logistics and people into sort of, especially the south side. That's really where the space is there for that to happen. And it's, these things tend to snowball when they see a little bit happening. Go, oh, what's happening there?
They want to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I suppose if you look at some of you touched on some of these larger these airports, and if you look at sort of Heathrow, Gatwick, Luton, and you know the slightly larger ones, their expansion is it's very. Well, we've all heard of obviously the Heathrow expansion.
Yeah.
Whether that'll ever happen or not, we don't know. So it's many years away. You've got the possibility and the space to expand without any limit. When you said you had 400 or 500 acres, that's like huge.
It is.
Does the local area, the sort of the business scene, could it support that expansion in the Midlands?
I think it could, in the fact that we can specialise in what we bring here, because we've got the runway, so we can attract that business alongside. So you marry it up. You've also got space where you can attract people who have got subsidiary businesses to what's actually here supporting businesses. So airports tend to find that they expand out exponentially. Most airports are full. We're not. We've got plenty of room to develop now. And I think the
where do you think
area,
the expansion is going to come in? What type of cargo?
I think you'll get a mix of air freight. You get a mix of land. So I think they'll want to be part and parcel.
Right.
You might get a mixture, so they do land and air freight. So you might get coming in through land, and then the distribution. So you get distribution centres, your parcel companies, and then you may get stuff for supporting the likes of development on Tees Works.
Yeah.
So you've got Sea Wind Farm getting built there.
Right.
They might want products. They might want parts that are coming from abroad, flying to Teesside and then down to there. So
how do you make these organisations aware that they have the Freeport facility?
A lot of it is advertising. So there's advertising that's getting out there. There's going to trade shows. There's just putting your name out there, and it's word of mouth.
So and
people are looking at Teesside. the bigger companies come in, like your hydrogen production companies are coming in. You've got all them, and people, oh, what's happening in Teesside, and then start looking.
Is it a hot area of expansion?
It seems to be, because Teesside in itself it was always known for steelworks and ICI petrochemicals.
Yeah.
In sort of like the 90s, it all sort of collapsed down, and then the whole of Teesside
most of it all collapsed down.
Yes. So we lost steelworks. I mean, it came back and went again, but it never kept to the level it was. Your chemical ICI disappeared. You had smaller companies working on there, and it was just like Teesside had lost its central place for everybody worked. Everybody knew somebody worked at the steelworks or ICI, and it's been in the doldrums for a long time. And I think now that they're looking at developing Teesworks, as it's called now, and it's there, people are now looking and think, oh, great, there's somewhere to work now, there's a future for Teesside, and because of these are coming in, and people are looking, and they're looking at Teesside as this is a place for development. Definitely.
All right, lovely. Listen, thank you ever so much for that impromptu interview, but appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right.
Good.